I'm gonna get right to it. It's 7:30 in the morning, and I finally went on and broke down and researched what was in my spirit for a couple of 2 or 3 days now. I'm not sure when the video was done. It was either my last video or a couple of videos back. I ended the video with saying, God will make a way of an escape. And ever since I made that statement at the end of that video, 2 videos back, I'm not sure which one it was, but it might have been the one where I was saying what you're creating. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But that is not even, where am I getting to pull that way? But what I'm trying to say is it stirred in my spirit about the statement in the word where it says God will make a way of escape. No matter what situation, you'll be able to see a way of an escape. So I asked God during these 2 or 3 days, however long it was, I made the video. I know it wasn't yesterday, but anyway, I was asking God, I say, okay, Father, show me, for example, where was Joseph's, okay, we're talking about the Bible, where was Joseph's way of escape when Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him and he had to take off running? And next thing you know, he done left his coat, and now his wife, Potiphar's wife, now trying to frame him for rape and now all this other stuff, consequences. So my question to God was, where was Joseph's way of escape? So 2 or 3 days later, I went on and got in the Bible this morning and researched it for myself to find out what could Joseph have done for his way of escape instead of letting it go to the point that it did. Now you're being framed for rape and all kind of stuff. So as I was reading the passages regarding Joseph and the king's wife, Potiphar's wife, in the beginning it said that, let me see here. Let's see. And it came to pass after all these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph. And to give you a backstory on this, Joseph was granted every authority within that castle, except for the king's wife. So Joseph had every authority to run the responsibilities of the castle. He had complete control, authority over it, except for the king's wife. So, and again, that it came to pass the things that the master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." So that was the beginning of it. Now that Joseph has been given every authority, stewardship over everything regarding the castle, it was given to him, and now all of a sudden his wife want to cast her eyes upon him and go to bed with him, but he refused. Sometimes saying no, the Bible say, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Let your yes and no's be specific. It's either yes or it's either no. And both examples that was given to me, both of them refused, but he refused and said unto his master wife, "Behold, my master wanted not to what is with me in his house. He didn't withhold nothing from me that is within his house, and he hath committed all that he has to my hand. There is none greater in the house, in the castle, than me, except the king, and neither hath he kept back anything from me but you." God didn't keep nothing back from Joseph in that house. Everything was given to him to be a steward over as he pleased, except his wife. But because you are his wife, how then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? So this is the conversation that is being had. You refused in the beginning. But again, as I was saying, sometimes saying no is not good enough. And I want to take this another way, but this is not what God is telling me to share right now. So this is when the conversation is being had. So to be able to find the way of escape, we have to be discerning enough to know when in this conversation is it being shifted? When is it turning from a godly situation, now the devil trying to poke the head up? So this is one example, and then I'll show the commonalities of it. This first example, and then I'll go to the next one. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do business, and there was none of the men the house there within of the house. So the first thing I see, another thing that was in common was being alone. Okay, because in Joseph's situation, there was always men in the house. It say, and it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. There was nobody there. You already refused, and in the king's house, there's always busyness in the house. I can't remember where is it showing where they were alone. There was none of the men of the house there within. So that's reading between the lines. The house was always filled, or with men working with Joseph to handle business. But this particular day, there was no men in the house. So Joseph should have used discernment right there. If there was no men in the house, which is out of the norm, that's something unusual. And the king's wife has been coming after you day after day after day to lie with them. Discernment, wisdom would say, why would you want to be in a house with somebody day after day, keep coming at you? And this is even with people around, and now with people not around, you creating an environment for something to happen outside of other people's eyesight. You already know you had something that was not of God's will, messing with you day to day by your refusal. But that refusal was being done with many people around because you were handling business. But all of a sudden, handling business as a usual day, starting a usual day, there was no one around. Automatically, your senses, your antennas should have been going up because something shifted. Now, to real quick go to the second the second example that God led me to was Tamar and Amnon. Tamar is the female. Her husband died which is Amnon's brother. Amnon wanted his sister-in-law, which wouldn't have been a problem if they'd have done it the godly way. So he plotting to pretend he's sick and everything and have the king have his sister-in-law come and bake whatever to help him through, feeding him, nurturing him through his sickness, which is no problem. But when did it shift? When did this stuff switch? So, and she took a pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. Now, the king has sent this woman to bake bread and everything, and you requested it for one, and now you refuse to eat. And then, mind you, it's a house full of men, of people as well. Because we know that, because he said, have out all men from me, and they went out, every man from him. Meaning, he told everybody to get out of the house. And now only Tamar and Amnon left in the house. Tamar, the female, her antenna should have been quickly being raised. Her discernment should have already been put up regarding, why is he sending everybody out of the house and just leaving me? Okay, you already got your senses up, your discernment up. Why are you asking me to do this? I mean, why have you asked all the men to leave the house? Already your antennas should be going up. Your discernment should be kicking in. So, and then he said to Tamar, bring the meat into the chamber that I may eat. Why you didn't eat it in front of everybody? Now why you calling me into the chamber, which is a private quarters, a private room? What you want to see me in a private room for? Automatically, that should have been saying something right there. If you didn't want to eat it with everybody around, why are you calling me in a private place? Now you want to eat. So that was when that shifted. When you asked, well, for one, it shifted to me when you done had me to request me to come in here and make all this food and you refused to eat. Automatically, it was time for me to go. But then more and more kept going. Now you in a private chamber of a person. And now, again, rape. The outcome of this turned into rape. So what my purpose of this message is to help us to be more keen to nipping things in the bud at the beginning, seeing the ways of escape God gives us in the beginning to avoid the outcomes. Yes, God gonna rescue us, whether we're in the beginning, middle, or end. But as we're making the shift to higher mature levels of living, God is requiring of us to grow up in the discerning areas of our situations of our lives, that they don't explode. God is always going to be faithful. But us being faithful servants and stewards and brotherly relations, whatever relations, being faithful first most with our spirit within, he's going to be faithful to help us detour from a lot of the pitfalls, sinking sand, obstacles he'll give us discernment a lot of times way before we have to reach certain points. If we're doing the best we can, God will do the rest. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is watch it when, we could get specific about these here two particular examples. They were being caught alone, giving the examples of a woman and man or whoever, two individuals. If they've already been giving you the red flags that, hey, I can't touch you with a 10-foot pole, why would you want to set yourself up where you're going to be caught alone? These shifts are very subtle. The shifts are very subtle, but the Spirit of God can't nothing get past the Spirit of God. And if we're walking and moving and living and having our being in the Spirit, God has given us that power, that wisdom, that discernment, that knowledge and understanding of what is going on. And mind you, we may not know the full details, but God being God within us, our tool of discernment has been sharpened. And I also wanted to go to the area of how could Joseph avoid it? And also Tamar in the second example. How could they have avoided those situations? For one, the Bible say, first you go to the individual, which I see that's what they did. They both refused. But he refused. And also Tamar, in all the conversation they were having, she refused as well, and let me see, saying, go now to thy brother Amnon's house. Let me see. Well, anyway, Tamar had a very long conversation with Amnon as well. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her and said unto her, come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, no. So they both refused. They both refused. Tamar and Joseph both refused. And now they got a long conversation going on. I cause my shame be done in Israel. No such thing. Do not do this. So they got a big conversation going on. Both of them had refused. So that was no problem. They let they no be no and they yes be yes. Either you will or you won't. If they did make that clear. The conversations, they both had conversations. But when you see that conversation did not do anything for that other person, then now you know you have boundaries. And one of the boundaries is I'm not going to be left alone with this individual because I see the capability of what could happen. Regarding Tamar, she saw and could have discerned not to be alone. If he refused to eat in front of a whole lot of people, you calling me into private quarters now you're trapping me. So both the discernment wisdom was, don't be caught alone with these people because the outcome won't be a pretty outcome. It could be, now it's their word against your word, which is why Joseph was being framed. And which is why Tamar's situation, she wound up being raped. The situations didn't turn out for the godly outcome, but God do have the last word. So like I said, whether God rescue us from the beginning, middle, or end, God is still going to do what he's going to do. But God is trying to teach us to avoid all of these difficulty, pitfalls, and sinking sand. So again, I was asking God, why, where, what could they have done to avoid when they saw where the shift happened? What could they have done? First off, the Bible says if you have aught with a man, you go to them one-on-one. And that's where I'm getting back to. Tamar went to Amnon one-on-one. They had the conversation, just as well as Joseph and Potiphar's wife, the king's wife, had the conversation. So they both went to them one-on-one. But the Bible also mentions that if they don't get it with that one-on-one conversation, now it's time for you to take a witness, to bring it before somebody that can mediate, solve this situation, because now you have to take it from between you and just that person and let it be known that something is going on and I don't want to have nothing to do with it. They're not hearing me. So it's best to get a judge, a lawyer, a counselor, a parent, or a preacher, somebody else that can put another perspective with you. Not another perspective, because you're already bringing the perspective, but you want somebody to also to come to be with you when you confront this situation. Because a lot of times if you have to go over people's heads, then that's what you better do. Because push come to shove, who will push who up under the bus faster? If Joseph would have brought somebody along with him, maybe to the king, and discussed it, who knows? The king could have got pissed off, or the king whatever, but the king would have known what type of woman he got up under his roof. He would have known what type of queen he might be thinking is white as snow, spotless. He would have been brought awareness of what is going on up under his roof. Because I guarantee you, with what I'm thinking now, if she tried that with Joseph, and Joseph always had a house full of men, none of the men of the house were there. She about was messing, flirting around with the men in the house before Joseph even got there. So to me, this was something that was going up under the king's nose the whole time, with multiple men, if not multiple, at least one other. Because why would she start all of a sudden wanting Joseph when the house was full of men? So it's a lot of different lessons to be learned in this. I won't leave my queen alone with a bunch of house full of men anyway. Or I ain't finna, or whatever the case may be. You don't set yourself up for different situations. You should be learning to be wise enough to see outcomes of situations instead of just walking into them blindly. Blind leading the blind. Amnon blind. Tamar blind. Blind leading the blind. But God is asking us, if we're walking in the Spirit, which that's like cliche conversation, cliche talk. If we're trying to be the best value, best quality being within ourselves, having answers to give to a higher power, our Creator, those of us that are walking in a knowledge of knowing that we are accountable to a higher God, the highest God, Creator of all things, those of us that are being accountable for these types of actions and decisions, thoughts, deeds and stuff, we should be getting the wisdom to see things before even, like I say, God will show us things way afar off before it get to you, before it touch you. You'll have signals going off. You know, this could turn out like this. You know, this might happen if you do this. You know, you might not want to do this because that could be an outcome. Weighing the odds of our outcomes by having conversations, nipping it in the bud in the beginning. And when we see that there is no meeting ground, no agreeing to disagree, no two coming together in agreement type things, if that's not happening, then we know this is something that, if regarding these cases, we shouldn't be alone with certain individuals, because we see they have the potential for other things. And this also know that it may be time to get somebody else involved so that there can be you're trying to have peaceful grounds. And that was another topic that I'm not going to go into because I didn't do the study of it. Within those couple of days, God has also, the first one he gave me was workers' wages, but I haven't researched that, but that's something else. But then that all of it still could tie together. But the ground proof, I gotta see what God is speaking of. I didn't research that yet this morning or yet in a few days or the next day or whatever. But ground proofing, it's like God is wanting to prove the grounds we're walking on. Because again, I kept saying sinking sand or I forgot the other one I gave. You know, yeah, God want to make sure that our ground is solid ground. Our grounds are being proved. I don't know how much more to break this, but I'm going to leave this alone. And to whom have ears to hear, let them hear. Because I feel like I was all over the place, but some kind of way I know that deep is calling deep, and it will reach. It will be heard. Seeds are being dropped. Water is being poured. Because God gives increase. And we do have the power and authority and the wisdom and the knowledge for this increase. It's given. It's a given. It's a given. It's ours. So be watered. Let God give the increase. Because the Bible say one man planted and another man watered. But it's God that gives the increase. So take words of wisdom from where God delivers it, whatever vessel delivers it, and let God give the increase. Because there's nothing that is in our way. It's here. It's ours. It's us. That's who we are. Have a blessed day.